day, everyone. I'm glad to welcome you to the maiden show of our interesting podcast, Uncork-NG. Uncork-NG is a podcast that is dedicated to the wine and spirit industry in Nigeria and the rest of Africa. I'm very delighted because today we are talking about something very explosive, very interesting for the market. Nigeria is one of the most fast developing or perhaps advanced market for wine and spirit globally. Made the argument that Africa is the last frontier in global wine and spirit expansion, and Nigeria sits at a very pivotal position. Even though we are not a wine producing country, but we have extensively shown the capacity to be one of the highest consuming countries of the world. On this show, I have one of Nigeria's most experienced wine and spirit professional, a veteran in this industry, someone who has spent over 3 decades working in the wine and spirit industry, trained quite a lot of people, and of course have revived a lot of innovation in the market. A man who also is former general manager of one of Africa's most elitist membership club, the Metropolitan Club, and also, of course, a former very senior person at the Koyi Club, and currently he runs the wine library group. Mr. Tokunbo Ekundayo, thank you for being on the Uncork podcast. Today we'll be uncorking a lot. Permit me to just say welcome to the show, sir.
Victor, thank you very much for welcoming to this Uncork program. I've been looking forward to this, and I love talking about wine. In fact, I get quite boring when I talk. If my friends say, "Go talk to you're talking about wine," then So yeah, because I'm just very passionate about wine. I've always been. You're very right. I've been in the hospitality business for over 40 years, not just in Nigeria but abroad as well. As you can tell by the accent.
Yeah.
I basically wanted to come to Nigeria, work in Nigeria, and after I worked at a couple of private clubs, I decided to go solo. And one of the things I decided to do was to start a wine business, because I just felt I could put something back in the wine industry, and I feel I put a small percentage back in the wine industry. And again, that's why I was very pleased that you invited me to this podcast. Feel really honored. I want to thank you, Victor. And I know how well and how passionate and how much integrity you have in this business, and how much you've driven this business from the time I first met you. And I remember when I first met you, you were trying to lecture me about wine. So I just thought, okay, let him carry on. But since then, I think you've been more than just a wine friend. You've also been a personal friend as well, because we do business together. And I think we have a lot of influences in bringing certain brands into the country.
Yeah.
Pushing it out there. Your love for the business is second to none.
Thank you. So I will just kick off and go straight into the question. So you've been somebody who has played your part in this industry. You have seen for over 3 decades, 30 years in Nigeria, and of course the rest of went in the United Kingdom at some point. You've been in the hospitality industry for quite a while. How would you describe the current state of the Nigerian wine and spirit market?
How would I describe that? I think it's rather interesting, actually, because there are those that, we're a beer drinking country, whether you like it or not. The majority of the population drink beer. We're not really into wine like France or Italy or wherever. We are very much beer drinking country. And it's understandable, we live in a very hot country. And there are those who drink wine because they just want to drink wine. And there's those 1% who know their wine and they really enjoy their wine. And basically, for me, I think the most important thing is educating people about wine. The myth about wine, what I always ask people when I meet people is I say to them, can you tell me the difference between champagne and sparkling wine? And what do you think my most answers I get is basically start telling me a story. I said, no. As you know, Victor, there's no difference between champagne and sparkling wine. Champagne is sparkling wine is champagne. It's just that champagne is an area, right? And you all know that. We should all know that right now. So for me, I just feel that we like our wine. We love our wine. But if we don't get wine, it's not the end of the world. But we love sweet wine. And we don't understand if somebody come around and say, have some sweet wine. But I can understand it because like our food is spicy. So when you drink sweet wine, you don't taste as much sweetness as you should. You have very spicy food, you have very herb related food. And I think one of the nicest things you can drink, you can eat with wine, which we'll talk about later, is our food pairing with wine. And it does work. People say no, I can really have beer with our food. That you can have really good wine with our food as well. Victor. So I think most us Nigerians, we like our wine. If you ever go to a party in Nigeria, there's some good wine people drink. There's a range of what I call the pocket-friendly wines people drink, and mainly red. And at those parties you have where people have a mid-range, I would say you're not going to see a Barolo on the table. That's but if you do have a Barolo on the table, it's like having a 21-year-old Glenfiddich at a party. I just don't know why you do that. But then again, you have a mid-range, lower range wines at parties that people really appreciate. And also, we do wine service as well, where we educate people on wines. We train people on wine. I don't mean to the sommelier standard. What I'm talking about is having a basic knowledge of wine. So when our staff are waiting at parties, they can tell them about what they're drinking, when they ask for it, and so on. And when we do functions, we tend to put menus on the table, and we don't talk Latin on the menu. We keep it simple.
Yeah. So I'll take you back to you mentioned that we are predominantly beer market, and we also love sweet. Now, I'll ask you this: how do you think that the Nigerian taste, the average Nigerian consumer taste profile has improved? What is the defining culture for our taste? And more importantly, do you think that the average Nigerian consumer has gained adequate wine education to be able to make choices based on what's available in the market? Informed choices.
Victor, wine and sweet education class. Don't even ask questions. Right. You've asked me three things there.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, I think we Nigerians are informed on wine. We're influenced by music. We're influenced by social media. We're influenced by what is said in the beer parlor. That wine and so on. So it's not the biggest form of sale, or if you want to improve yourself, the biggest form of sale is word of mouth. There's things you put there. It's your friends. I do that. So basically, it's the information they receive, but it's how they receive that information and what they do with that information. We know that the biggest selling champagne, we love champagne in Nigeria. You know that. And our biggest champagne seller is, can I mention the name?
Well, no, you don't have to mention the brand.
Everybody knows the biggest.
Well, you can describe it, but you don't have.
Everybody knows there are two brands that sell very well in Nigeria. People love that champagne. But then again, you would love that champagne. Then again, it would sell well because that two specific champagne have a lot of marketing behind them. They have a lot of cash behind them. There's some small champagne vineyards that are so good, but they focus on producing quality champagne. They don't have.
But do you think, George, sorry, I'm going to cut in. Do you think the Nigerian consumer is educated enough to the point of being able to make informed choices, and also informed choices that would also reflect the kind of food that they pay with food? I don't want to go into food and wine pairing yet, but do you think the average Nigerian consumer, because that will lead me to the main reason why we're here. Do you think the average Nigerian consumer is informed enough?
I don't want to sound patronizing to our fellow Nigerians. I think my fellow Nigerians, I'm talking like a politician.
Yeah.
My fellow Nigerians are very educated. It scares me how educated Nigerians are.
About wine?
Not about wine, everything in general. So when it comes to wine, we have people in our wine trade fair. They start off with no knowledge. And within like months or whatever, they have more knowledge than you do. They're somewhere one step away from being masters of wine, but that's a small percentage. Then it's as important that those people educate people out there. Those people must tell people that, I only drink red wine. I say, yeah, you only drink red wine. That's fine. The man that puts sugar in this red wine because he wants to see That's the way he likes it. I would not try and school anybody. I would tell them, this is what I like. You understand? But I will not patronize anybody and say, oh, this is what you should be drinking. But I will recommend, but I will not point the finger and say, no, you're not drinking the right stuff. You know, even though we come across as wine snobs, and we're not really wine snobs, we just know what we like.
Okay, so that takes me to the big issue. Nigeria has faced tremendous crisis with the issue of counterfeiting.
Yeah.
Being so, of course, sometimes you would think that it's over exaggerated, right? But you also, or is exaggerated, but you also look at the number of people who are concerned and worried about counterfeiting and fake. One time I met a particular very senior manager with a development company in Asaba, right? While I was traveling, I told him I was into the wine business. The first thing he mentioned to me was Nigeria is a big country for fakes and counterfeits, right? So it's a big concern. And this is a very well-informed, well-educated Nigeria. So I said to myself, and I asked you this question, how big do you think the problem of counterfeiting is? Is it exaggerated or is it a reality that the market faces, a real market problem?
Again, it always makes you like it only happens in Nigeria. It happens around the world. Faking. Look, how can I buy a Timberland shoe in Nigeria for 20,000 naira? When I know that Timberland shoes is what the most expensive shoes you can buy. If I'm now buying a certain brand of wine or a certain brand of champagne at 25,000 naira, I don't know where there's something wrong. You know? And basically, I feel that it goes back to the world to be educated people and let them know about what fake wines can do to you. You know, we know we have bodies, you know, we have certain agency, government agency, who works very hard to fight this counterfeit and fake wines. We know that there are certain people within our group that fight this thing on a regular basis. You see, it's a difficult job to fight fake wine. One, the margins nowadays are tight for everybody. You know yourself, you have to reduce your margins if you want to sell your wine because we look at dollars. We look at what we pay to bring stuff in. You know very well how much we pay to bring
the exchange rate.
Exchange rate, whatever. The economy does not have our business, and you know it's not something that if you don't have wine, you're not gonna die. It's a luxury item. Excuse me, I need to get the arrogant frog. Sorry, promoting my wine there. So I feel that this is a tough job for everybody. There's a lot to say, don't make fake wine. There's a lot to say, don't jump red light. There's a lot to say, don't kill somebody. But it happens, right? You know, we break the law, and fake wine is really hard to find. It's about learning to understand what fake wine is or how to identify fake wine. That's what you got to start for. You know, you're not going to go to the border and say, oh, you're bringing fake wine. You got to recognize that, okay, I don't buy fake wine. What I'm not going to buy, not buying fake wine. That's what you got to school people on. We all know well, I can tell you several ways. I'm sure you can tell the people listening, several ways how not to buy fake wine. You know, you look at the label, you scan. No. The only way not to buy fake wine is to buy from a genuine, recognized distributor or retailer. Someone that you know that it's hard because even people we know might be bringing in fake wines. Even people that we buy, we don't know what they do behind the closed door. So if I recommend, it's very hard for me to recommend a person for myself. That's why I only recommend stuff I drink. I only buy from small independent importers. I mean, Nigerian importers, yeah. There are many big Nigerian importers. We know, I can name 3 of them. Big importers. And then we have medium importers. And I believe that importation of wine has increased due to the number of people bringing it in because it's an easy business to start.
Yeah.
You don't
You
don't, I mean, unless you're importing, you don't even, I might get shot for this. You don't even need capital to start in the wine business. You can have a list of wines, send out to people. They buy off you buy off the first.
But let me interject with this question. Yeah, it's okay. Let me interject with this question. What do you think? You talked about margin, right?
Yeah.
You also talked about the issue of FX crisis with the foreign exchange rate crisis. You also alluded to the difficulty going through the import process with customs and the rest of all that. What do you think would be the major driver for reason being why people will want to either counterfeit, fake, do parallel, and all of those things? What could be the most?
Because the product sells.
Yeah.
It sells. The number one.
Yeah, because the consumer demand is there. Yeah, so
it sells. Champagne, we drink champagne like it's weird. I think we're the second highest consumer of champagne in Africa after South Africa. If you correct me there, I'm not sure. I don't have my facts with me. Some news readers will say, you got to talk facts. You got to have your facts. My facts is that we're the second consumer of champagne in Africa. And it's very popular. Yeah. So you're not going to make, tequila is increasing in population in consumption. I mean, tequila is increasing. Vodka has dropped a little bit. People are now drinking gin. Whiskey. Oh my good God. There's one time it was cognac. Well, now we're now doing whiskey. I mean, I see
single malt whiskey, blended whiskey,
all sorts of whiskey. And I thought, what's going on? I see guys now doing gin, because O&B is our hobby.
But let me ask this quickly. Which category do you think that most of the fakes come from? Is it spirit or wine?
I can't really say unless I have the facts.
Yeah, but
I would say it's most likely spirit because the margins are better with spirits. Your NS, your certain brand,
and spirit consumers are more or less not very discerning like the wine consumers. Would you make that kind of argument to say spirit consumers are not that discerning?
I think spirits consumers. I mean, you go to parties, see some chat bringing out Glenfiddich 21 years, and so wow, and especially that's the Scottish or French person will buy a bottle of cognac will last them 3 years, and then on the side table they will not consume it in one go. So you're right in the sense that we like our spirit. How did we end up liking Glen 21 years, 18 years? What was it? What happened that all of a sudden just liked this
single brand? The single malt.
Before I came back, all I knew was like Bells, whites, down to basic whiskeys. It was only in Nigeria I started learning about Glenfiddich. And that's the truth. I knew about NSC cognac because I like cognac, but when you came with whiskey, it was here. I said, what? You guys put the whole 18? Because I was told that you take you have a glass of 18, a glass of water next to you. But to go back to what you're saying, I think whiskey, there's more fake whiskey than there are wines. Because I think the margin, and people consume probably more whiskeys than they do wine. And we'll have to go to the charts again and find out exact figures.
Because if you also look at the numbers, I think there are more spirits, whiskeys that are consumed than wines, right? Yeah. More spirits consumed than wine. If you look at the numbers,
and then you got to look at sparkling wines as well. You know yourself that that there's a sparkling wine, it's called malt, which is made the same way. The same methods of champagne.
Yeah.
Yes.
But let me quickly ask this. Is there any way consumers can identify fake alcohol, fake wines, or fake spirits? I know you talked about the best way is to avoid being exposed to fake by buying from essentially the right source, even if it's going to cost you more, but buy from, the real importers, right? Or look for, suppliers who have access to the quality stuff. But is there any way that, consumers who find themselves in the club, in the lounges, just having a good time and want to drink something, what should they do?
Look, are you talking before you open it or after?
Before you open it.
Again, it's very hard to say. Again, if I mention some places, I'll be sued for defamation of character of all those places. You understand? If litigation was happening, I had to be careful with what I'm saying. But I know when you go to, there's certain supermarkets you don't go to and buy it from. There's certain areas you don't go to and buy your spirits from. I'm not going to mention those areas. There's certain places you don't go to. There's certain people you don't buy off. You understand? You know, I mean, personally, if you come to me and you ask me, oh, I bought this bottle of champagne at 25,000. How come you're selling it at 50? I said, well, if you're happy paying 25,000, go ahead and pay 25,000. But if your liver has issue, your chest is hurting you in the morning, you have the worst headache in your lifetime, don't come back to me and say, you know. So again, because we want to host parties and we want to have the best brand on the table, but you know, it's a bit like we want a Rolls Royce. We need the money for
budget
and Camry, right?
Help me brand. Help your brand. Yeah.
You know, I want a Bentley, but I've only got money for Uber. So definitely, so therefore, somebody now offer you more. They won't notice at the party. It's not. It's not like they won't notice the party. It's the after effects. And then after you bought it and you open it, there are smells, there are tastes. There's color you can look at, but that comes with experience. With wine, you can look at the cork. Yeah, I mean, sometimes with wine, it's about story.
Do you think? Sorry, I'm going to cut in again. Do you think
that it's cutting it, doesn't it?
I'm sorry. Do we need to train consumers more on identifying the different taste profile and all of those things?
Oh my God, that was the next one. That was the next one I was going to come to. We have every day, as you know, Victor, restaurants, hotels open up on a regular basis in Lagos. I don't know, in Old Pie, I only live in Lagos, I only know about Lagos. Restaurants and bars open up, I mean, regular basis. They spend millions on decor. They spend millions on chairs and table. I want to know how much they spend on training their staff regarding beverages and wine. You see, for me, I don't know, you can correct me, Victor. For me, if you open a restaurant bar, you should have a license, on license or off license. You can correct me if they say to your stomach. There should be a person who represent that business whose liquor license is under his name. You know, you used to go to court, based on my experience, you need to go to court, swear, blah, blah, blah. You're therefore you're responsible for beverages, etc. What comes in, you're the one. You know, you have an off license if you're buying off the premises. If you're drinking on the premises, there should be an on license or something. I'm not sure if that happens or not. So there's one person within that company that's responsible, that holds that license under his name. If he moves on, somebody else takes over. And there's a fee for it. If there's a fee, and someone takes responsibility. So if a drink's coming in and the client say, oh, the drink, again, how educated is the customer to know, oh, this is fake. It could be that they're eating something or they're bottled wine. Again, we distributors, we're not licensed, are we, Victor? We register as a business, but we,
yeah, well, you have to go through now that if you're going to be import.
But I think that if you're a spirit seller or wine,
if you're a redistributor,
you need to have a bottle license paid for. So you could hold it for 3 years and license to sell alcohol.
Yeah.
But if you're not caught selling fake alcohol, you use that license. Yes, I know recently there's a case back in March where somebody was caught with fake wine and put in prison for 40 years. You know, you can fact check me on that. I'm not sure. You know, so I believe that you need to train your staff. I mean, we shout that we have wine waiters who grab your bottle of wine, serve you. But how many Somalis do we have? The waiters trained properly. We get to them now. And there's some bosses of our business, right? Who have WS Integrity Wine Spirit Education Trust. We know 1, 2, 3. There's some bosses who are this much away from being masters of wine, and they pass that knowledge down to people below. But economically, they will find a way to steal your stuff, bring the fake one, take it. And what annoys me is that they take the genuine stuff, go and sell it somewhere for less money than what it's worth. And the guy picks it up. But I just think training your staff, making them aware, making them understand why it's really bad to yourself.
What I think from what you've said is that the businesses must be accountable.
Yeah.
Accountability on the business side. Whether or not the economy is shrinking, whether you're trying to cut corners, whether the margins are small, you need to be accountable by making sure that you are selling original product. You are not allowing fake into your system, and you also making sure that your staff are trained and trained enough. Because again, of course, accountability means that you also train your staff to identify.
Yeah.
If you're a business owner that is cutting corners, you rather also prefer, you rather hire people who are not knowledgeable enough so that they won't even be able to identify when you are doing the wrong thing or challenge you when you're doing the wrong thing.
I mean, Victor, I'm sure you've been to parties where the staff standard is just, it's just somebody else. It literally feels like they grab somebody off the street, come out, sell it.
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you ask them questions about what they are selling. They can't even tell you.
They can't even tell you.
Okay. So I'll ask you this, with regards to the role of the regulators, because you mentioned regulation as one of the critical issues. And you also alluded to the fact that everybody who is in the wine and spirit value chain should be able to get some license, right? That allows them to play in that sector. The only body that could do that is NAFDA, but I don't think NAFDA has a broad licensing structure for wine and spirit industry. That could be a recommendation that could go to NAFDA. But do you think that NAFDA is doing enough with regards to its responsibility in managing this industry? They've created a lot of awareness. You get feedback from a lot of hotels now, and they say to you, we are concerned about NAFDA. You can only list products that have NAFDA approval and all of those things. Do you think NAFDA has done enough, or NAFDA is further still tightening or making it difficult for players in the market to function? And I'll give you a simple instance. For you to import wine into Nigeria, you have to do NAFDA approval. Sometimes NAFDA approval will require you to spend as much as about 25 to 30 million, right? Because there's a GMP fee, which is about $13,000 and all of that. Do you think that is a source of discouragement for most small businesses, medium businesses that want to import?
Oh, good God. Yeah. You're paying $13,000 to bring in wine.
For a single SKU.
I understand. You need to clear. Look, that's beside you paying for the
product itself, the cost of goods, and clearing,
and maybe shipping, and maybe people can now understand why certain wine is
very expensive. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we know that NAFTA goes aboard. If you're bringing wine, you didn't measure that NAFTA, you visit vineyard, basically, and
sometimes the winery do their own assessment,
and sometimes the winery doesn't like that. Some wineries don't like NAFTA coming down because you have to these countries would produce wine at their own appellation
certifications. Yeah, they have their own certifications.
They have their own way of monitoring how wines are made. They have classification, in Italy, in France, in America. They have very high standards. Basically, I think NAFTA have a big job on their hand.
Yeah.
They have a big job on their hand, NAFTA, because there's only so much you can monitor. Yes, they talk about stopping the sachets of spirits, fine. They break, they go to certain areas and, backdoor producers of non-approved alcohol. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. Mm-hmm. Non-approved alcohol that's did in the businesses, matching educational classes. Yeah. I've given all this wine people to come to the educational classes. I said, look, this is one way of you. This is one way of you addressing and helping us to fight the fake wines. Yeah. Use recognize history as a vice. Yeah. Right? You recognize, I mean, they say there's a NAFDAC number on products. Yeah. Where you could quite easily put any NAFDAC number. I mean, I often be checking NAFDAC number on the products that you buy. Yeah. People really don't check it. Again, it goes back to what you do. What do you do as an individual? Yeah. At the end of the day to stop. Because at the end of the day, once one person finds fake wine in your business, that's it. Yeah. The business goes downhill. I used to remember that when you're working as a waiter, I'm told you need to have a basic food hygiene certificate to work with food.
Full handling like food.
Yeah. I had certificate. Well, you don't have one for spirits and beverages, do you? You just start working. And yes, you have the basic food, but how much does it cover alcohol? In sense of recognizing fake alcohol.
So it is necessary to have a blanket regulation that includes also licensing for even those who work in the alcoholic beverage sector.
I think we need to have proper licensing.
And for a government that is also looking for avenues to make a lot of money, so you can charge a little more for those licensing.
How many bars open up and have a
certified
unlicensed to sell alcohol?
Yeah. By the way, that's one of the things we do here also at Lagos Wine School. As you know, the LWS Wine Academy is to train people on wine so that they understand the basic, the fundamentals. Because we recognize that the country says it has an unemployment rate of about 33%. But in this sector, you know that the wine and spirit sector in Nigeria is one of the sectors that people are under. There's not enough people to hire, right?
Yeah,
we often get requests. We're looking for a brand manager. We're looking for a brand assistant. We're looking for an activation manager. And you don't have people to hire because there are not a lot of young people who know that opportunities exist in this sector. Not a lot of young people who are trained and knowledgeable about this sector. Okay, so let me go forward. I don't know if we are together, if we are making progress.
We are.
How do you think that players in the industry, professionals like yourself, can support NAFDAC and collaborate with NAFDAC to address this challenge of fake and adulteration in the market?
Integrity.
Okay.
Yes, your own self-integrity. Yeah. If I have a crazy policy that if I don't like it, I don't sell it. I only buy from small traders. And sometimes I buy from big traders. I can go back to them and say, I got this from you. The client is not happy with it. And sometimes you got to be careful between fake and not well-kept wines.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
You got to be careful that
the wines that have a bit of sulfur.
You got to be careful that you sell a good wine to a client, okay? They come back to you in 6 months and say to you, this wine, I said, well, have you kept it? But when I send out my drinks, I always have my invoice, store this wine correctly. Store this way, store that way. You find out on that invoice. Storage is key. Keep in a dark, cool place. So on that invoice, we schooled it. One of the things we do at the Wine Library Legacy, and most people learn we send out videos, but we're not sending out videos saying buy a wine. We send out videos that's talking about health, right? How to drink properly. We talk about looking out for fake wines, be careful where you buy fake wines. So it's not always promoting or buy our champagne or buy this. Our videos that we send out to our members, not customers, members, it's normally educational. And we don't make them too long because concentration span of an average person is 15 seconds. That's why the videos that make that go viral, normally you catch them in 15 seconds, but watch the rest of it, So individuals, big companies can play a great part in this. The ones that bring in containers with 4 or 5 loads of wine, they can really play a great part. They can really educate them, because sometimes you speak to some of the staff that you're dealing with in big companies and they haven't got a clue what you're talking about. They just, you say, you know what I'm talking about too.
Yeah. You're right.
You pay them minimum whatever you expect to, not just, you say to them, okay, I remember, I'll give you an example. About a couple of weeks ago, I bought some, I had to go to the store because of ignoring me. So I went to the store, picked up a case, I said, okay, I want to take this, I want to take this. For bottle of white wine was bought actually. And it was meant to be a Sauvignon Blanc. And yourself, Victor, a Sauvignon Blanc is very clear. Looking clean, you can see right through it. But this color looks like sunshine yellow.
But like it was really.
So that's what I'm thinking about. You got to be careful.
The story.
And that it's not fake. But
they handling
they store it very well. And they weren't even aware. I said, no, you can't sell me this. Only because I was aware. But people might say, God, this wine is fake. No, there's a battle when screw top became popular. I know screw top is fake. No, screw top is not fake.
Yeah.
It's
just screw top is like more expensive than the cup.
And sometimes just easier. wines that you're supposed to drink within 3 months and it made it through
For 2 years.
Yeah. And it's
Okay.
good wines.
So I'll ask you this question. How do you think that international wine producers, from the top producing countries like France, Italy, Spain, and the rest of them, how do you think that they view the Nigerian market?
They love the Nigerian market.
Yeah.
Victor, you know, how many companies come to Nigeria because we're in the trade. How many invitations do we get to come to wine tasting by France, by Italy, by South Africa? We get invited to this tasting that they come to Nigeria. They love the Nigerian market because they know that there's a potential in the Nigerian market. But if we don't take care of fake business, I can mention Pernod is one of the biggest companies in Nigeria, right? Okay. And they sell a lot of wine. Globe is another one. They sell a lot of wine. But how do we encourage them to keep coming back when the products are duplicated? I mean, we know the biggest duplicated spirits is, I will say, NSC. No, we can cut it. We know the biggest, we know what the biggest duplicated wine spirit is. We know that company had to come to Nigeria because they wanted to protect their products. So they're now the ones bringing their own product, but they're still fake versions of it. You understand? So why would you come to Nigeria when you're going to lose 40% of the business to fake products? Just what I'm saying.
Okay, so looking ahead, what do you think the future of the wine market in Nigeria looks like? 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
Brilliant.
Good.
Let me tell you something, right? It's what I call the pyramid effect. Yes, this is how good the business is. There's a well-known brewery in Nigeria. They're now distributing wine. You never thought that this well-known brewery in Nigeria would ever distribute wine. Would you?
Yeah.
Years ago, they're distributing wine. So they must have said, wait a minute, there's a marketer. There's a well-known soft beverage company
distributing spirit.
Right?
Yeah.
So these chaps know that, wait a minute, there's a market out there, but they didn't create that market or that knowledge. It's small independent businesses that made the public aware of this is what's going on. That now those bigger companies are now seeing that, come on, let's get into this. The future is bright. The future is orange. The future is whiskey. The future is red. The future is sparkling. And the future is white. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Kundayo. Thank you, guys. You're hailing right from the source, the veteran, as I call him. He has laid it out. The future of the wine and spirit industry in Nigeria is very bright. We must continue to engage, continue to educate, and continue to inform consumers and also support the government, the regulatory bodies to ensure that people do not get caught up in this whole mess about counterfeiting and fake and all of that. Of course, he has made it clear there are those who sell very quality original products. You need to find them and patronize them. More importantly, also, the fact that we need to all get together and support the regulatory bodies and also make sure that the regulatory body also put forward proper regulatory framework that will support and assist everyone who is involved in the business. Thank you guys, and do have a great time, and we'll see you on the next episode.